Salt and light. That's what we are, right? We are salt and we are light. Well, which one are we? Are we salt or are we light? Answer, yes. Have you ever played with a prism? You know, those little crystal kind of glass things? Pretty cool to see how light, when it hits it, is refracted and then broken down into a whole bunch of different component colors. And you know what makes up the light and all those colors? It's so cool. I've looked at some of these things before about light. They're waves and they're particles. But are they waves or are they particles? Answer, yes. I'm no scientist, and smartness is not my specialty. But I've just been fascinated by these whole things with light and the particles and the waves and how they behave a certain way. Like, do you know this? If you're a scientist, you've done these experiments, is that light waves behave a certain way, or particles behave a certain way, until you observe them, and then they change. Isn't that kind of weird? It blows my mind. And I know some Christians like that. Like, they are light, Jesus said. But as soon as you start observing them, they change. Light is light, but our experience of it is like a rainbow. Our enjoyment of light is the enjoyment of how it's refracted in the various ways. Apparently, quantum mechanics tells us that light can behave simultaneously as a particle, but also as a wave. Albert Einstein, he's the one who kind of explained this photoelectric light show, so to speak, by proposing that actually, though they were thought previously just to be waves of light, that is also a stream of particles that are separately moving together. When it comes to things like photons and electrons, the answer to the question, do they behave like waves or do they behave like particles? The answer is yes. So light behaves mainly like a wave, but it can also be considered to consist of tiny little particles of energy called photons. And these photons carry a fixed amount of energy, but they don't have any mass. But they're also found that increasing the intensity of the light increases the number of electrons ejected, but not their speed. It's just amazing to me. Anyway, in God's economy, we've been called light. We've been built to express the light of Jesus in us and through us. So in fact, we are kind of like prisms, where his light comes into us, and through us, people actually experience the light of Christ in the form of a diverse array of our attitudes and actions. And when we don't reflect his light well, you think nobody's watching you? Just start making a mistake or being a hypocrite. And then you got people going, hey, I thought you said you're a Christian. They're watching you. They're watching the light of God in you. And it's reflected through his love, the way he loves through us. Most people know 1 Corinthians 13 as the love chapter. Love is patient, love is kind, love doesn't envy or does not boast, it's not rude. Love does not insist on its own way. Love is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in the wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends, never fails. Many preachers have said you could substitute God in for that word love, because God is love. But I think God would love it for us to be able to substitute our name in there as a refraction of his light to the world. So that's convicting. I should be able to say, Rick is patient and Rick is kind. Rick does not envy, doesn't boast. Rick isn't arrogant and Rick isn't rude. Rick doesn't even insist on his own way. Rick is not irritable or resentful. Rick doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing, but he rejoices in the truth. Rick bears all things. Rick believes all things. Rick hopes all things. Rick endures all things. Rick doesn't fail. That's convicting. Matthew 5, again, 15 and 16 says this. Jesus says, people don't put a lamp, they don't light a lamp and put it under a basket, but they put it on a stand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light so shine before men that they might see your good works and glorify your Father. Give glory to, make your Father famous, your Father who's in heaven. Yes, Lord, walking in your way, we wait for you. Your name and your fame are the desire of our hearts. Let our light shine.